what we did back in the 70s, when we understood that there was a certain group of people that controlled the record distribution industry. And of course, you know who Al Bell is. He had owned Stax Records, and he had Isaac Hayes and a bunch of other, Rufus Thomas and other leaders, singers and entertainers, and had hit records, and was locked out of the distribution. And, you know, of course, we're dealing with a system where there's one group that controls everything in our community, and music is one of the things that they control. What we did then, and I have to give credit to the rappers, because they are the ones who followed up on what we had started. And what we did was we recorded this song. It's called The Good Thing, Man. Some people will remember that. And we took that song to every black record store in this country. We started in different cities. I had Miami, Florida. That's one reason I got stuck down here. I came down to distribute and to promote that record in the black radio and the black record stores. We had black record stores then. You could go in your community and there was a black record store. So what we did, we asked that they would play our music on their loudspeaker on the street, and that record sold like hotcakes, and which gave us the money that we needed to distribute our record across the nation. And it worked. It worked very well. But then, of course, you're dealing with an industry that's controlled by a people who are vicious and will kill to maintain control. And, of course, some of that did happen. And, of course, we lost control until the rappers came along, and then they started doing it out of the trunk of the cars, and it worked. What happened after that was that we didn't reinvest that money that they were making back into the community economically. I mean, we bought cars and houses for mommy and all of that, but we didn't reinvest so that we could build an economic base in our communities. And there's a way to do that. One of the things that we need to do, and this is the second thing that was done that was very important, was done through the SCLC at the leadership of Dr. King and Walter Fauntroy. What we did, we organized voter registration drives throughout this country, and we did it through black churches in black communities, and we registered over 100,000 people, lickety-split, just like that. And that changed the political structure for a little while, until they caught on to the enemy caught on to what we were doing. And of course, you know, the enemy, like I said, are vicious people, and they will kill to maintain their control, and that's what has happened. So I had a friend of mine, a great friend of mine, say to me, you know, you keep talking about these young people. She says, but in our day, we would die for freedom. They will kill for freedom. So, and, you know, that is what has transpired over the years. Now, I'm not suggesting that we kill, but I am suggesting that we strengthen ourselves so that we do have a force that will defend our communities across this country and across the world, because we are not defending ourselves, and we are under attack all over the world where black people control. So there is a way to do it, and I think that the church can play a big part in that. And one of the things that I've said since realizing that we don't own anything in our communities anymore, we used to have the corner store, we don't anymore, but invaders have taken our community stores, and they are the ones who are making the money and sending it right back out the country to their countries and to their people. And it's our money that they're using, and because we are not putting our own money in our own communities, we should own the corner store. We should buy no gasoline from any gasoline station unless we own at least the ones in our community. You know, so there are ways.
Hold up, though, right there, Brother Ray, because that's an interesting concept. Do you think if we did our community would support us? If they knew that say you own the corner gas station or the corner store, the store, do you think that they would go to your store, or do you think they'd bypass you, or they say, oh, I'm not going to buy gas from him? Has that mentality changed yet? I guess that's
well. If it hasn't, it is going to, because we're finding now that there are no jobs for us. The people that they're bringing into the country, and I'll just call it the Indians that own the Motel Sixes, if you will, across the country. They don't like us, and they treat us just like they don't like us. And the Arabs who come in and buy out the corner stores, they don't like us, and they treat us like they don't like us. So we continue to break our money into those stores and buy and feed them to take the money right out the country. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but I don't want to focus so much on them. I don't blame them. If they can get over, do it. We should be doing it. The focus is, why aren't we doing it? That's my question. There's a gap there. They can come in. If we don't have to go to those stores. If we say, no, we're going to go support the stores of the brothers and sisters, it's a whole different thing. My question, again, is why aren't we doing it? I'm not mad at the Arabs or the Indians who come in.
Yeah, but I'm very angry.
Because it's not our fault. We don't have, it's like drug dealers. You don't have to take the drug, okay? Then you can come and try and sell me some drugs. I don't do drugs. So why aren't I'm saying, why don't we get our own, Brother Ray? That's where I'm at.
Well, because we've been stopped from getting our own. We have been denied the loans that takes to get our own. We've been redlined out of business. The banks redlined us. We know that. We tried to get around that. But again, we didn't organize to deal with it, because they keep carrying our money to banks that refuse to lend money back to our people, to the people it comes from. And as I said before, every Monday morning, our churches put hundreds of millions of dollars in banks that refuse to lend that money back to the people it came from. Okay, now suppose we took those hundreds of millions of dollars on Monday morning and opened our own bank and get our people to invest in their own community, the contractors and the builders and the businessmen, the doctors and the lawyers, to get their money from their own bank at a fair rate, not the rate that others are giving us, because they're giving us the highest rate and the longest terms, and we're going for it. But they don't give us the terms that they give their own people. And we know that, so we could change that if we just understood what is going on and how to get around it. Because like you said, we don't have to carry our money to them. We can carry it to ourselves. But who do we have? Everybody owes and stole to the system. And I'm just telling you how we can do it if we want to do it. And it's been an enemy of the people. And like I said, the government is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But it's a government of the rich, by the rich, and for the rich. And we are continued today to be locked out of the economic growth of this country, all over this country. Everywhere that there's a black community that is in a majority, there are problems that have been created for us. So we've got to figure these things out, and we can figure them out, and we could change it. And don't have to fire a shot, don't have to throw a rock or anything. Just have to organize, understand, and hold our money. I used to have these marches down here that said, Christmas is coming, hold your money. That works.
How did that work out?
Well, it didn't, because the leadership came against what we were trying to do. They just came against us, told the people, if the church, for an example, had told the people on Sunday, Christmas is coming, hold your money. If you're going to buy something, buy it from the people who look like you. Enrich your own communities. We are enriching everybody else. They're coming and selling us anything, and we're buying it. And our people are standing on corners looking for jobs. You put a hand out. Our leadership, and Dr. Ben, just really, that whole thing about him just really upset me, that he would have to die in a Jewish nursing home. That just destroyed, that upset me to no end.
All right, hang on a second, Brother Ray. We got to take a short break, and stay with us. I want you to calm down a little bit, because I know you mentioned you're upset and we're feeling it. But we got to take this short break. Thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Brother Ray right now. The number to call, speak to Brother Ray, 800-450-7876. Before we get back to Brother Ray, let me just remind you, coming up in the next few days, you're going to hear from Brother Siddiq. He's a futuristic researcher. He always tells us about AI. He's like a canary telling us about what's going on in AI. He's the front one out there that we use. Anyway, the Bilderbergers had a conference recently. If you know about the Bilderbergers group, the Committee of 300, they're part of the Committee of 300, and the top of the list was artificial intelligence. What's the future? So Brother Siddiq is going to break that down for us. So if you're in the DMV, tell all your friends. reach out to us and keep the radios locked on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. Brother Ray, I'm going to let you finish your thought, and we got some folks who want to speak with you.
Yeah, first let me apologize for sounding so hyper because I do get very upset when I think about it. But a lot of the blame is ours. We just have not taken charge of our condition and changed it. And we can do these things. And it's not a hard thing to do. We've done it before, we can do it again. And then recognize what is happening to us. It's not all our fault. It's being perpetrated on us, and we can organize ourselves to address it.
All right, and guys, let me do this tweet first. Tweeter says, we talked earlier about somebody tweeting and gave me some names of some people who were on the internet who were selling black products, kind of like a black Amazon, if you will. But my question is there's more than one, maybe 5, 6, maybe a half a dozen. We just don't know who they are. And the tweeter says they have not embraced the new media. They should be using new media with a collaboration to old school personal contact. And we're talking about Ken Bridges, and that's what he did. That was before the internet. He went around every black station, radio station around the country, personally sat down with either general manager, program director, or news director, or whatever it may be, and explained what he was trying to do. And once they heard what he was trying to do, bam, he was on the air. And they were all behind him. That's why Mata was so successful in its launch. And those of you who have these kind of places on the internet, portals, if you will, if you call them that, that's what you need to do. You've got to get the word out there. It's just like internet radio. There's a lot of folks, there's millions of internet radio stations out there, but if you don't know they're out there, you have no listenership. And that's why it's hard to make any money on them, because you can't make money if people don't know you're there. So you got to figure a way how to get the message out that you're there, so people can listen, or people can join your portal if they want to advertise and buy products. You've got to use like this brother Tweety. You've got to use some of the old-fashioned way. You've got to go out and step out and press hands. It's going to take it takes the work. That's why Ken Bridges was so committed and after hearing him speak, you're going to say, hey, I'm down. I'm with you. What you want to do. How do we start? How can we help you? And that's what happened with Martin. And as Tony mentioned, and Dick Gregory mentioned it at the time, too. That's why I think they took him out. 800-450-7876. James is joining us. He's on line 3, calling from the district. James, sorry, Brother Ray.
Hey, how's it going, Carl?
Good, and thank you for the work that you did for us this weekend at Power Talk.
Hey, that's the African thing to do. Now, in listening to what you're saying, and Ray and I spoke over the weekend, one of the major problems is we have not groomed anybody. You think about, and when Ray was talking about how it hurt his heart for Dr. Ben to pass the way he did, I'll go deeper. Stokely Carmichael, he passed the same way. We have HBCUs that have all the things we need to help our communities heal. But if the institution does not groom the minds of the children that we send to them, it's at a loss. Everybody can't make a donation or kick up $30,000 at one time or $100,000. But if you send your child to an institution that represents you, and that institution understands that its primary goal is to groom and return that child back to its community with the idea that it has to put in work, that's where you affect change. And those institutions have failed to do it. I can categorically give you names and institutions where they talk a great game. The president will come in and talk like, well, first of all, he'll come in, but nobody's asked him a question about what is your vision. One of the things John Henry Clark said was, leader, if you are leading me, where are you leading me, and is that where I want to go? We don't ask those questions, and we begin to ask those questions and challenge those individuals. And if they don't do right, take them out. I mean, and I take them out.
Let me interrupt for a second, James. So, James, let me interrupt for a second. So why do you think there is a vacuum since Ken Bridges passed, that nobody picked up the baton and said, oh, hey, man, this distribution, this is the problem in our community. We don't know where our people are or how to get our products and ideas to them. And let me do what Ken already has the Martin Network. Let me just enhance that now with the internet. Why hasn't somebody done that already?
Well, here's the reason. Number one, you cannot say what people aren't doing because you will discourage those who are trying to do. That's one thing. The second thing, you cannot telegraph your moves because we're in an age of internet, and you go back to the brother you were talking about with Martha, they did more with a duplicate machine and a crayon than we're able to do with the entire network because you have to put your foot to the ground and walk and meet people. Our young people have been fed a diet of you don't have to go anywhere but stand in front of a screen, put your name in, and everybody will come to you. Nobody knows you unless you become personal and tell them what your story is and what your goal is. And it works for white boys because, number one, the people they're trying to reach are already within that 1%.
And have that same mentality.
Exactly. And we need to stop saying what we're not doing because it clouds those who are. Now, are there some things we are doing? Sure. There are things that everybody's not doing. But if we keep burdening ourselves with that I can't, nobody will ever feel and think I can. And Carl, you've known me for over a decade. And the same, when I hear people come on and talk about what young people are doing, I go back and look at the 44 young people I see 2 days a week after school that are doing the African thing, and I'm making sure they go abroad, that they come back and understand that D.C. is a very small place. You limit yourself by the way you think. And if I'm there to tell them that every day, the naysayers won't matter anymore because you've seen what a beach feels like, not what you read in the book. And that's the only crutch that we have over any other group. If you've never put your foot on sand, you can't tell what the texture is by having read a book. And true, a book can take your mind where your body can't go, but you have to blend the two and add reality to it so you know how to use it.
Yeah, but you see that's part of the organization of what we need to do. There are many facets to it. We need a promotion effort to promote our businesses and our people. We need education to teach who we are and where we're from. We need to have under the education. We need to have travel. I'm right here in Miami, Florida, where some of these children who have never been to the ocean, which is 10, 15 minutes away, but they've never been there because they've never been taken there. No one has educated them to the point of what you're just saying. Take them over to the beach and show them.
But here's the way you can do that. You mix them with those who have seen something bigger. I'm going to tell you a short story that'll make you laugh, but it conquers. I was taking a track team, the Hampton Relays, and we went across Pennsylvania Avenue Bridge. And it was a girls' track team from Banneker High School, and everybody knows where Banneker High School is. One of the young men, and I was coaching at Dunbar at the time, looked out the window and saw the Potomac River and said, the Atlantic Ocean. They looked at him, and they didn't laugh. They began to explain to him, that's a river. But he had never gone that far into the city.
Right.
So that was young people teaching other young people something and did not make them feel bad about not knowing because they're adults who've never been outside the city. You don't chastise, you open up an opportunity. You know, instead of going to Six Flags, go somewhere that's outside of your comfort zone.
And just let me interrupt you and ask you this, though. As small as Washington, D.C. is it possible that you have some people who've never been outside the district?
I can tell you some people that have never been outside their ward if they weren't going to school. Yes. And that's because if you're an eagle and you're dealing with pigeons, you will think you're a pigeon. Plain and simple.
Good one.
And there are young people, and there are also, believe it or not, there are certain schools that won't let kids go on field trips. And I'll give you a classic one. Banneker High School will not allow its students to go on a field trip. If it's academic, they can go anywhere they want. But if it's not academic, you can't go anywhere. I took my son out of Banneker for that very same reason and never looked back. Because everybody that looks like you is not you. They could have a hidden agenda that's not to your child's well-being. And when it comes down to where will you send your child, there are black schools, African Center schools, and that's where I started my kids off. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have done it from the time they came out the womb. That made the difference for them because they were surrounded every day by young people of like mind, and they understood what community was from the ground you when you started talking about John Henry Clark and all these other scholars, because if you remember, Roots Activity Learning Center was bringing those brothers into the basement talking to young kids from day one. My son remembered meeting John Henry Clark when he was 5 years old and sat down for 2.5 hours and listened to him talk. And Clark was smart enough to know that if I talk to this young one right here, I may not get all 50 of them, but if I get 10, my work is done.
Well, that's all part of the approach we need to change the condition. You got to talk to these kids. You got to teach them. And the best way, in my opinion, to teach them is through the church. That's where they are. But in order
I disagree with that.
You got to go.
I disagree with the church. I disagree with that.
You have to go through the pastor, and you have to go through the women that run the church. They have to understand how important what you just said is.
Here's why I say I disagree with that. We can't throw everything on the church. We have to take responsibility. The change will come at the dinner table. And if the young boy that's next door isn't eating, you put him at your table, and you instill in him what you need to understand when you walk across my threshold.
That's all part of it, brother.
But that's a part. And the thing is, and I keep going, the church has its place. Don't get me wrong. But if there was no church, what would we do? And before there were churches, we would stand under a tree and call it community.
Yes, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. All I'm saying is that gathering is where we can reach the masses of our people. And if we did that, they would come and they would learn and they would go out and they would teach. We wouldn't be in this condition. We had all of these things in the past. What happened? How come we lost the restaurants that we had? How come we lost the markets that we had? The corner stores that we had? We lost.
You want the answer? Because Claude Anderson has been saying it all along. He had one of the largest bus companies. His family owned one of the largest bus companies, black-owned, in the country prior to desegregation. All of a sudden, it was a fad to have a white driver drive you. And they stopped going to that black bus company, and it went out of business. And I'll go back a little bit further. Even in the movie Selma, they talked about walking across the bridge, but they never mentioned how for over a year...
I'll tell you what, James, hang on a second. We got to take a short break here. Folks, you too can join this conversation. Freewheeling with Brother Ray, 800-450-78. Folks, 6 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. Our guest is Brother Ray. You know, we're talking about solutions. We always, instead of the problems, you know, a lot of people like to talk about the problems, but we all know what our problems are. My thing is, I think we need to talk about solutions. I think we got the smartest, the brightest, the most brilliant minds on the planet anywhere. And they're right here, most of them in our listening area, for example. And we can find solutions to all our problems. Every problem has a solution. If you want to join in the conversation, 800-450-7876. Before we left, we're speaking with James in the district. So, James, I'm going to let you finish your thought.
Okay, what I was saying was there are things we can do that have a major impact on the collective. We do it every day. We just don't hear about it. And when I was talking to Ray regarding the church, when you begin to really think about it, there are some churches, and Willie Williams Church is one, and there are others, but they aren't the dominant ones. They are not the dominant ones. We need to begin to look at those things that we have control over, if that's the venue you want to use, if that's the vehicle you choose to go through, and support it. But we can no longer sit back and say, why aren't young people doing something when we have never groomed them to do anything? Case in point, Master P gave, it was like $20 million to USC. How crazy is that?
That was Dr. Dre.
Okay, but $200 million to University of Southern California? And I blame HBCUs for being negligent in what's available. Every student that comes out of D.C. public schools has a thing called D.C. Tag, which means over a 5-year period, $50,000 follows that student point blank the day they are in that HBCU. And if that's indeed the case, HBCUs should have their behind at every D.C. public school, recruiting and grooming those kids and bringing them back to us. But you have the same kids whose parents are struggling nickel and dime. They want to go to Harvard, Yale, or some private school and give up $50,000 to go $200,000 in debt. If that's not the definition of insanity, I don't know what is.
Well, you see, I think that that's all part of promotion and education. If they knew that, they don't know that because they have not been told. Well, who's responsible for teaching that? We are responsible for it. And like I said, all roads lead home. And we all don't have to travel the same road to get there, but we're all trying to get there. And if you're an educator, educate, okay? And educate in the area where you have the expertise. And I think once we begin to learn that and to do that, we will be able to put together the puzzle that we're trying to put together. Why are we in this condition, and what do we have to do to get out of it? Let's find a way, and as Carl has said, let's find some solutions to our dilemma. Why is it that we're under the tree with no job? Why can't we get a job? Why can't we find jobs? Why are they bringing hundreds of thousands of people from other countries here? And the government is bringing them. They're not attacking this country. They're being brought here and given jobs and given our money.
That is institutionalized. One of the things when politicians, and this is a great time of the year to talk about it, they have institutionalized bringing in other highly skilled and educated people from white European countries. And they talk about a border on Mexico, but then you come into Canada. They've been doing that over a decade. It's not new. But the thing is, we need to stop trying to be our children's friend and try and be their liberators and make them think about what they must do. And that means when you send them off to support those institutions, you challenge them. Come home and be the doctor we need, the lawyer, and whatever else. So the people like Doc Ben, John Henry Clark, Kwame Nkrumah didn't have to die under the knife of someone who did not look like them, and they challenged them every step of their life when they were on the planet. We ought to be ashamed.
Yeah,
and James, I want to let you go, but thank you for your call. Brother Ray, I'll let you respond because you got a bunch of folks want to talk to you as well. Thanks, James.
Well, the thing is that we have not trained our people, and those people who have come into this country have been taught properly. And this country has not taught our people properly because we depend on them to teach us. The public schools have not taught our children. They didn't teach me properly. But if they want you to compete against people who have a proper education and have gone to the best schools in their countries, and they did not have to pay for it. There was no multi-$1,000 costs for them to get an education in their countries, and they went as far as they could go. And I recall in high school in America, you could go to a high school and get a certificate in electricity, in plumbing, in masonry, and whatever field you wanted, nursing. You could go to a high school in this country and come out qualified and capable of doing that job. What happened to it? They cut them out the high school, so you have to pay for it to go somewhere publicly. And they privatized everything in this country to take it out of the hands of the American people, black or white. We need to understand that. So what you have is everything that's privatized now. You got people from all over the world taking these jobs. You got your highways controlled and owned by other countries. That's the government responsibility. But the people didn't know that and don't know that. They couldn't come against it. But when they were asking, how come this toll is $11 when it used to be 50 cents? And then you find out when you do your research that toll is owned by another country and that your government sold it off to them. And then that's when we began to cause some changes. I think we'll begin to cause, but it's all about education, and that's part of it. The people need to know the truth. The truth is what's going to make us free, knowing what's happening to us and why these things are happening.
Brother Ray, Tweeter says, our understanding of commerce and its connection to our community enrichment is what needs to be changed. The tweeter goes on to say, our mindset of community commerce is warped. Other communities engage in economic segregation every day. We go into their communities and spend, but they rarely come to ours, and no one complains. Is that a correct statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've said it a million times, and I'll give you an example. Down here in Miami, Florida, when our Cubans came, they would walk past 5 Sears and Roebuck if they didn't own it. And they would go past any black-owned or white-owned store to buy from a Cuban. That's a known fact here. And they did that until they built up their economic base. And they did it through an organization called the Cuban American Foundation. Okay? And
well, let me ask you again, because I asked Tony this. He was telling us about the Chinese. Was that a language issue, too, with the Cubans when they came to Miami?
Yeah, well, first of all, they were brought to Miami. Yes, it was a language barrier at that point, but they used it to their benefit. And like I said, I think I said this before on your show, that back in the 80s, when it became a problem, the Ford Foundation had us to come, a group of us to come to New York to discuss these issues in Miami and what could be done. And they were sending money to the black community because we were the last hired, the first fired, and our communities didn't have the resources that all these other communities have. So at the time, the city manager, a Cuban at that time, said clearly at the Ford Foundation in the meeting that any money comes to Miami for community, the Cuban community will control it. And then I stood up and said, that is the problem in Miami. They only look out for themselves with our money. So that's what we're faced with. Yes, and it's, in my opinion, it's partly our responsibility and our fault for not addressing those issues collectively to deal with it. When you have one person standing up trying to correct or to deal with an issue like that, it means nothing. So until the community is organized and understands what's going on and collectively address those issues, then they may change. Because there are lawsuits that should be filed down here, but again, when there's no money in your community to file it, our organization at the time, SCLC, we didn't have any money. We worked on marches, and the people didn't support the cause, and they're still not supporting the cause in America for black people. But the fact of the matter is that until we support our own cause, we're going to be in the same condition.
All right, Brother Ray, stay with us. As mentioned, I got some folks who want to speak to you. 800-450-7876. Folks, you got some solutions? Let us know. Let's go to Khalid. He's calling us on line 5 from New York. Khalid, your thoughts? You're on with Brother Ray.
Yes, good afternoon, brothers. My name is Talib. You got to excuse me because this is very close to my heart. This economic thing. Do we understand what money is? I brought this up once before on your show, and I don't think we understand what money is. I don't. If we was to ask the question, "What is money?" I don't think we would get the right answer from most of us. And if you don't know what a thing is, can you use it properly? And most of the answers most people would say no. Excuse me, can you hear me?
Sure, we're listening.
Yes.
There's a level of understanding of money that we have not reached. We're still in either the stage of the baby mentality or the adolescent. We have not reached the adult level of understanding what money is. And I'm not talking about all of us, but I'm talking about most of us. If I was to give $100 bill to a baby, the baby would destroy it. That's the destructive level. If I would give $100 to an adolescent, most likely they're going to spend it. That's the consumer level.
Hang on a second, Tilly. We got to take a short break here. I'll let you pick up on that on the other side. Folks, wow. When we're talking about solutions, we got a brother's got some solutions for us. What do you do? 800
construct level. I can ask any brother or sister, what level do you see working and walking in our community? And 90%, if not higher, will say either the baby level or the adolescent. We have not reached the adult level. The maturity of our thinking, whether we're 8 years old or 80, is not there. And and when we talk about solutions, I don't have the answer totally, but everybody knows that. Mostly, we worked. We didn't get paid. We worked to build for them. Now, we're supposed to be free. That's what we say. What are we working for? We don't see that paycheck, those dollars that we get, are conversions of our time and energy. This thing called work. And work is to build. So some of that money from each one of us should go in the pool to be converted back into work, to build the homes for our elders so they don't have to die in these places that Brother Ray was talking about with Dr. Ben. We're supposed to be building the institutions so our people not only can go into them, but at first see that we are builders. They can feel it, they can touch it, they can see it. Right now, we just tell them, like a person says, don't smoke, but he's smoking. We say our young people should be doing this, that, the other. Well, what the heck are we doing? And why can't we sacrifice $100 each? In the tri-state area, it is said in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey, it is said that 250,000 black men went to the Million Man March, and many more wanted to be there. They couldn't. 250,000 of us right here in the tri-state area put up $100, and overnight we got 25 million. Let's build that place for our seniors. And each time we build something, more and more people will be attracted to it, and we can build even more. I understand that we should have businesses, but let's have the buildings for our businesses to be in.
Well, brother, I agree with you 100%. The thing is that we expected something to come out of that because I was there at the Million Man Marches as well, and we saw the money collected. And we saw that we felt that something big was going to come out of it. And we just need to do it again. We need to get folks who think like you to understand that collectively we can build anything. We build America. We can build anything anywhere.
Yes, sir.
So we've got to be convinced to do that. And in order to do it, we've got people around like LeBron James and other conscious athletes and entertainers that once they see and understand that we, the people, are ready to do that, I think they will chip in, and I think everybody would chip in. There's no question about it.
Hang on a second, Brother Ray. Let me ask Brother Talib this. He mentioned LeBron James. Should we count on these entertainers and athletes who's got deep pockets, or should we go to somebody else who's not well known?
I think we should depend on us $100 brothers to do this. We've been talking about the $1 Million Brothers too long. 50 years from the time Dr. Martin Luther King was murdered, and look where we at today. We have to do it. Each one of us, no matter if you're $1 million brother or a $100 brother, we got to do this thing.
Well, let me ask you a question, brother. In the community that you live, has there been any effort to understand what you're saying, to begin to generate finances to do what you're talking about? I mean, has anybody collectively started to organize so that we can begin to raise funds and do what we need to do, even if it's small fundraisers to raise money, build what we need to save our people?
To be honest,
unemployed?
To be honest, no. And I fault myself for that.
Yeah, that's your job now. That's your job.
Understood.
Don't wait for somebody else. You have to do it, and you can.
Let me jump in again, Brother Ray. Could it be that that's the problem? That we're all looking at somebody else to start it. We're looking at somebody else to, hey, if he's brave enough to start it, I'm there. Do you think that's the issue?
Yes.
When you look at the flock of birds flying up in the air, and they in a formation, and they got a leader bird up there, true. But if you shoot that leader bird down, does the rest of the birds follow? No, each adult bird knows where they're going. And when you talked about Mata and other things where brothers were killed and or whatever happened, and the leader left, the whole thing went down. Each one of us needs to know where we're going. We're all. I'm sorry.
And not be afraid, because fear is what stopped us from continuing. When they killed Dr. King, he had a tremendous plan, just like what you're talking about. I was in the meetings that when we start planning it, called Operation Breadbasket. We had those plans. But when they killed him, you were right. Everybody scattered.
It's unfortunate that we will go into Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, World War I, II, and every other war. But when it comes to sacrificing a dollar or even our lives to build for our future, we chicken out.
Is it because we're brainwashed or we're scared?
I think we're more brainwashed today than ever. I think we're deteriorating. I think the way we treat each other just on the street, how we drive our cars, I mean, we're in bad shape. And to me, it's going to take the brothers and sisters who are conscious, whether one is in California or 10 is in Chicago and 3 is in Philly. It's going to take those brothers and sisters in these different areas to come together to do the work. We're looking for too much in our own neighborhood. In our own neighborhood, you might not find but 1 or 2. We got to do this, I believe, as, come together all over this country who have some consciousness. None of us are 100% conscious, but let's face it, man. This is for our future. It's not about us. As Brother Ray said, this we ain't got no jobs. Young men are standing on the corner, and you got elders out here who don't know where they're going to live for the remainder of their lives.
That's right.
But Tally, let me ask you this. So what about Dr. Anderson? Dr. Anderson's put out a plan. He's got the blueprint.
Yes.
In his books, Black Labor, White Wealth, and then Powernomics, he tells you what to do, how to get out of the situation we're in. And then he's got a Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. All these books tell us, what we should be doing. Why aren't more people embrace? And he's kind of like what Brother Ray was talking about, kind of, sort of disappointed that we've not embraced some of the things that he's put out. And he's been doing this for years, for decades.
We need a generator. When a car, the battery goes down, we get a boost. Brother Anderson, if 250,000 of us, and that's a small number compared to as many of us live here. If 250,000 of us were understood that we were the generator and that we would generate funds for Dr. Anderson, funds for others, we would plug in and give them the boost that they need for the car to run. You see where I'm coming from? We have to sacrifice. I heard somebody say we got to come out of the 3 F's. We're failing in life, and anybody knows you get 3 F's on a report card, you done had it. Well, our 3 F's are fads, fashion, and foolishness. And if we can't sacrifice that for our future, then we really don't need to be talking.